Thanks everyone for joining me for another episode on the Travel Collective, where we share amazing places to go, local, far away, and I get to have great conversations with fellow travelers. So I'm excited to welcome back our author, Karen Gershowitz, and really been enjoying her book, Wanderlust, which is one of two that she currently has out. So welcome, Karen. How's it going today?
Hey, April, it's great to see you. I haven't seen you. Well, I certainly haven't seen you in person for months, but I haven't even seen you online because I've
I
been
know you've been busy
busy, busy.
traveling. Yeah, we've both been traveling. So it's that time of year, though, where I noticed that Lonely Planet, which has their own series of books, and they've already jumped the gun and put out their list of must go places for 2025. And this year, they're also, for the first time, talking about travel trends. And one of the travel trends is marvelous markets. And I know we both enjoy art and shopping and exploring different places. And I think there's a growing trend towards that a little bit because, as you know, in the United States, I mean, a lot of the small markets, we're all getting our things kind of from Amazon, that needs to change. So we're hungry for unique
Oh,
items.
yeah. Well, it's funny because, yeah, I think you may or may not know that I'm writing another book. And I just wrote a chapter entitled Beyond Souvenirs, Shopping While Traveling, because it's such a fun experience that I thought has to be in the next book.
Yeah, I
And
really think that is true. I enjoy, even if I don't spend any money, I consider shopping. I think growing up as a kid, my mom kind of instilled that whole idea of window shopping. You went to look, you went to get ideas, you wanted to see what was kind of, super in fashion that you might never ever be able to afford, but just the joy of that.
well, yeah, and it's also a chance, particularly if you're overseas, to interact with people, to see what the locals are shopping for, to see what crafts they have, as you said, clothing, what are they buying? And
Yeah.
it's very different in different parts of the world. And again, you may not buy anything, although I usually do. Um, but but even still, just the experience of it is so much fun. It's just so much fun. And it was interesting because when I was writing the chapter, I kept going, oh, and I have to write about, and I have to write about. And then I had to pare it back because that would have been the entire book if I had kept going,
Oh, yeah, I
because there are
bet.
so many places.
And I think
Um,
even seasonally, because I know you may have traveled or may have mentioned to me, even going, like people talk about going to the Christmas markets in
Absolutely.
Europe.
Yeah, I went 2 years ago, and it was fabulous. But then New York City has Christmas markets. We have three, well, two really huge ones, and then one really nice one, but not huge, that's at Grand Central Station, which is a fabulous place to visit, even if you don't want to go shopping there just because it's a great building. But there's a big Christmas market there too. And so, people think, oh, I have to go overseas. That's not true. You don't. There's great places. I was just in Albuquerque, New Mexico, for the Balloon Festival,
Oh,
and which was amazing. But while I was there, my friend said, "Oh, there's a really good craft market that they hold the weekends of the Balloon Festival. Let's go over there." Well, it was all local craftspeople, including a lot of Native American indigenous art.
oh,
It
wow.
was fabulous, fabulous. I mean, I bought one very small thing, but I had such a good time there, and I had no idea that it was even there. But
Yeah,
if
I
you
was
ever
going
go
to
to the
say
Balloon
some, but
Festival, go to the craft market too.
no, that's good to know. And to actually, I love interacting with the artists too. I think they're fascinating, interesting people. And a lot of times, the only place that you're going to find them or their art is at some sort of market. They're not able to have a place like a brick and mortar or a gallery. They're not quite to that level yet.
No, but I'll tell you what you can do. If you go, a lot of towns have tours that you can visit the artist studios. And not
Oh,
exactly a market, but they'll give you a map and the studios are open and you can just go visit the artists in their studios. And I've done that in New England a bunch of times, in Maine particularly. But I know they also do it in the Carolinas. I know they do, there's a couple places in California that do it. And you should look for it because if you happen to be there on a time when they have, the tours, they're great fun. You get to meet the artists. You also get to see their studios,
Oh, yeah.
which is really fun. And they'll explain how they do what they do. And then, and it's all kinds of crafts. It's not just painters, it's potters, it's weavers, it's jewelry makers, glass blowers. I've seen it all over the years because I love doing,
Amazing.
yeah.
So what are some tips maybe to even, I guess you just kind of said like, what did you call it? Open studio, that might be, I
Yeah.
guess, something
Open
to
studios. Yeah.
Google, if you're looking for that type of thing to find
Right.
out dates or locations.
And the other thing is there's a lot of cities. I know Philadelphia does it. I got to think who else. They have once a month, they have open gallery nights
Oh,
and they have wine and cheese, and you get to go into the galleries. And it's like a roving party that everybody, they're usually in a contained area. In Philadelphia, it's in Old City, which is a really fun area to visit anyhow. But they have once a month, they have open galleries, and it's just great fun. And I've done it. I'm trying to think where else. Oh, I did it in New Orleans. They had open galleries in
oh,
New Orleans.
wow.
Trying to think where else. Santa Fe does it, I know. So there's a bunch of places that do it.
So what
So,
about internationally? Give us a
uh,
couple of your
yeah.
favorite markets, something to
Well, I
share.
have two absolute favorites, and I've been back to them multiple times. I love Fez in Morocco, which is I don't know that they call the entire city, the entire walled city is like going into the best market ever. It's very, very narrow streets. It looks like it's probably looked 1,000 years ago. There are no cars permitted, although occasionally a motorcycle will go through, which is really a problem. The biggest problem you have to watch out for are donkeys, because that's what they use as delivery trucks. So you'll
Oh,
see a donkey with, Coke bottle, cases of Coke strapped to it. I once didn't all the donkey handlers will say "balik, balik," and it means get out of the way.
okay. Yeah, that's good to know.
And I didn't get out of the way quite fast enough, and it was a donkey that was carrying freshly dyed leather,
Oh,
and I had a souvenir of a red streak right up my outfit
oh
when
no.
it came out. But again, a lot of them, it's a great place to barter. And you have to haggle, and a lot of Americans are very reluctant to, but it's part of a game. They expect you to. And if you don't, they think you're, basically a fool.
Right.
And, and it becomes an art. And it becomes, they'll serve you tea and you sit around and you chat. But it's great fun. And anything you want to buy, you can find. They do amazing leather work. They do amazing jewelry, clothing. They'll make clothing to order.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. Um, Copperware, basically, just any craft you can think of, they've got. And woodworking, beautiful, beautiful woodworking. I was there with a friend many, many years ago, and she bought what was a sample of what could be a surround for a door,
Oh,
but she
wow.
loved this piece and was maybe 4 feet long, maybe not 3 feet long, because she could fit it in her suitcase,
Yeah.
and very, very intricately carved and stained.
Oh,
And she
wow.
uses it decoratively. And it was like nothing. The guy goes, "You want that?" It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
why would you want that? Well, the thing was gorgeous, and I think it probably cost her the equivalent of maybe $7 or $8.
Yeah. Well, and to him, like you said, he was just gonna chuck it. Yeah.
Yes. Why in God's name would you want that? My other favorite place, and I was just there in the spring, is Istanbul. The Grand Bazaar in Istanbul is like truly like nowhere else on earth. Now I've been there 3 times over many years. It's changed and it's more touristy now. But even with that, it is one of the most fabulous markets on the planet. Um, the salespeople or the shopkeepers are really friendly. They're really fun. You don't start bargaining unless you plan to buy, because that's considered extremely rude.
Okay.
Um, but even if you don't want to buy anything, I was there and I was exhausted. It was a really hot day. And one of the salespeople said to me, "You look really tired. Come in, have a seat." I said, "I'm not going to buy anything." "That's okay. You can just look." I said, "That's really all I'm going to do.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
okay. Let me go get you some lemonade."
Oh,
Comes
wow.
back with lemonade, which was really nice. Didn't get sick from it. It was really good.
Good.
And he said, "So what are you interested in?" I said, "Well, actually, I would like to get some scarves." "Ah, my cousin." Everybody's got a cousin who sells whatever it is you want. They've got a cousin who will sell it to you. Anyhow, I sat there for about 15 or 20 minutes talking with this guy while I cooled off and rested. And then he must have somehow signaled, because he didn't call him on a cell phone. And this guy comes in, "I hear tell you'd like to buy some scarves." I'm like, how did he do that?
Yeah, exactly. How did that
I
happen?
have no idea. Anyhow, went over to his little shop and again got another glass of lemonade, sit down, brings out 50 scarves. I'm so confused by that point. I don't know which ones to buy. And we start haggling. But I ended up buying like 3 scarves as gifts.
Yeah.
And I mean, I spent the whole afternoon. I was like, "Well, what else would you like to buy?" And it's like, "Well," I said, "and I can even show you." I said, "I bought a pillow
Oh, that's
years ago
fabulous.
in Dubai, and my dog ate it," which is true.
I love that. That's a great story right there.
Yeah, when he was a puppy, he ate the entire pillow. Um, and sure enough, I described it. He said, "Oh, well, I don't have any like that, but I know where to get one." And he walks me over to his other friend, who we go through the same routine again. I get another cup of lemonade. It's a whole.
Yeah.
Then he said, "It must be time for lunch for you, isn't it? It's getting kind of late." I said, "Yeah, I've been here a long time." He said, "Let me take you to my cousin's place."
Wow.
So I went to lunch at his cousin's place, where I was told told him to take very good care of me. He said, "This is where we go for lunch." And in fact, there were no tourists in there.
Oh,
It really was
interesting.
all
Oh,
locals.
it
Yeah,
really was
it
locals.
really was all locals. And the food was fabulous.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, I mean, I was in Istanbul for a week and I went back there 3 times. And each time I maybe spent 15 or $20, maybe 20 or 25. Um, but it was totally entertaining. You get to talk with people and it's just and it's beautiful. The building itself is, from the 1800s, and right next door to it is a huge spice market that's
Oh,
equally fabulous. Um, so those two, I think, of everywhere, are my absolute favorites. But I like markets no matter where I am.
yeah.
You know,
Are
but
there
the,
things that you need to keep in mind as far as shipping? Like you mentioned the spice markets, and I know if I went to somewhere like Morocco or these other countries, you would want to bring home maybe some spices or something that's not really perishable, but is that allowed as far as bringing it home or
as long as it's in a sealed container,
okay.
you're fine. You are absolutely fine. And what they'll do is they'll vacuum pack it for you.
Oh,
Because I
good.
did. I brought back some spices and some tea, and they'll vacuum pack it, and I didn't have any problem at all. I even had the sniffer dog come up, and they didn't care. It was fine.
Yeah. That's good to know because it is so nice to bring back flavors, teas, things that you've had just because it kind of brings back those memories then when you have it in your own home.
Yeah, the one thing that I would strongly suggest is the thing that everybody wants to sell you is saffron, and almost no one is actually selling you saffron. They're
Okay.
selling you other stuff that's been dyed yellow. So that's the one thing I don't buy overseas. But, I mean, you can tell what a vanilla bean looks like. You can smell
Right.
things, but saffron doesn't have an odor.
No, it
So
doesn't.
you have no way of knowing whether it's legitimate or not. So that's the one thing I would say, do not buy.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
What about buying? Are there any tips for buying items at the markets that, as far as for someone new to haggling, any suggestions or?
Yeah. You start off, think about what the most is that you want to pay, and then cut it in half.
Oh, okay. That's good
Yeah.
to know.
Or even a third. And you start from there, and they'll laugh, and then they'll give you a price, and you'll laugh, and then you'll have another cup of tea. And then you keep going like that until you get to a meeting point where, as one, I still remember this, I don't remember where I was. We get to price. You're happy. I'm happy. You're happy. I'm happy. And he kept saying that. I was like, okay, I got it. I got it.
Right, exactly.
But that's the goal, is so that everybody, really walks away feeling like you didn't get cheated and they didn't, no, like nobody got cheated.
Right, like nobody got
Everybody.
cheated. Right.
Yeah, because you don't want them to, to feel bad. And the thing is that I know, I mean, I've had people tell me, oh, I always feel so guilty. I know I have more money than they do, and I'll just pay them what they want. That's not the point. It is a cultural necessity almost to
Mm-hmm.
bargain with them. They think that you are truly foolish if you don't.
Right.
They don't expect anybody to pay the asking price ever. It's a game. And it's culture, it's part of their culture. One of my friends told me years ago that she wanted to buy a rather expensive carpet when she was in Morocco. She said it took her 4 hours of bargaining,
Wow.
but they eventually got to a price that they both agreed was fair, and then he shipped it for her.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes.
wow.
But now here's a tip. I had the same thing. I also bought a beautiful carpet when I was in India many, many years ago. But it was not, I wanted a particular design in a particular color, and they didn't have it, but they said they would make it for me. So they sent me a runner rather than the full size carpet to show me what it would look like.
Right.
It was not the right color.
Oh.
And so now this took months and months of going back and forth. And I was on my own. I was not with a tour. If you happen to be with a tour, contact the tour company,
Mm.
them to negotiate, because that'll work better. I've been interviewing people for the book, and one of the guys I spoke with said that he bought this a very beautiful but delicate table
Oh, yeah.
of fossils. The entire top was fossils, and he came and it was completely cracked.
Oh, no.
And he tried to deal with the company, couldn't do it. He finally went to the tour company and said, "You took us there. You figure it out and get me a new table, because I spent a lot of money on this, and this
Yeah.
is, it's clearly not okay." And sent
Right.
photos and all. And sure enough, the tour company, because they bring people there all the time, they're more likely to listen to them.
Yeah,
Do
that
you
makes sense. Right. Because it's,
right? Because
yeah,
they want them to keep bringing those tourists.
right.
Now, if,
Exactly.
if you're on your own, it's a lot harder. I've never had a problem with things being shipped. I mean, they eventually got me the carpet in the right color. And I said, "What do I do with this runner? I didn't pay for it. I want to return it to you." They never gave me instructions to return it. So I ended up with a runner and a carpet.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they didn't know what to do with it,
Yeah.
you know. So, which was a fluke. I mean, that's not, but I've shipped other things. I mean, many, many, many years ago, I shipped a desk from Thailand,
Oh, wow.
Chiang Mai, a wooden carved desk, and it took forever because it came by sea, and then it came to the port of Newark, which is not easy to get to, and so I had to get a shipping company to bring it to me, which cost another fortune,
Yeah.
and which I had not planned on. Um, but I went back to Chiang Mai years later. The prices had gone up by a factor of 10.
Wow.
And so I still love the desk and I use it and it's
Oh,
gorgeous.
good.
People comment on it all the time. So in retrospect, I got a deal.
Right.
But but it was a shock at the time, and that's one of the things that you have to be aware of is, be careful what you buy and what it's going to cost if you're going to ship it. I haven't shipped anything in many years just because I don't need anything. Uh,
Right.
I tend to buy small things. I'll buy scarves or I'll buy jewelry or I'll buy, you know, little things to give to people because I don't need anything. Um, but if it doesn't fit in my suitcase, and I only do carry on, it's not coming with me.
Yeah, and that's smart. I think people to, think about if you do want to bring things back, leave room in your suitcase because you wouldn't want to lose it if you check it or, something like that. I mean, try to think about that.
Oh, well, then I'll give you the other tip, which I
Oh, good.
tell everybody when they're packing. If you're going to go shopping overseas, bring a bunch of clothes that you do not care about at all, that are worn out. The sweater looks like it's from 20 years ago. It's got pills on it, and toss things as you go. And it makes more room in your suitcase. I did that when I went to the Christmas markets because I was buying gifts. And I brought a bunch of clothes that I knew I was not going to bring home. And I'd saved them up specifically for that trip.
That makes
And
sense. I love that tip.
yeah. And then I got rid of them. And my other clothes I used to wrap the things that I bought.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And it's a great way to clear out your closet because sometimes we do have a hard time getting rid of things, especially for like, oh, I might wear that again. Oh, it's still got some life in it. You're probably not
Right.
going to wear it again if it's still hanging in there.
Yeah. If you haven't worn it in 3 years, the truth is you're never going to wear it again. So
No,
you'll wear it on the trip, and then somebody else will be the happy recipient of it and use it.
right, exactly. And in some communities, I know, like at the hotel, they're willing to, if things still have life into them, if you let them know, like, hey, I want to donate these, sometimes you're right, they are the happy recipient. There are people that will
Absolutely.
gladly take I know when I went to Egypt, a couple literally emptied out their shoes, their jeans, several items, and the recipients were super happy.
Oh, yeah. Well, and again, I was in Tanzania, and I was on a tour, and one of the guys had brought tons of clothes that he had gone to Goodwill and bought. And he traded them for things because
Oh,
jeans were, really a hot number there. And, because we were out in the wilds. And, if you had great t-shirts and people wanted them. And so he was trading all the time, and they were happy as could be because they couldn't find it and they certainly couldn't afford it. So
right.
he was trading you know, for the clothes that he had bought at Goodwill. And they were not bad clothes. They were just, people put very good things into Goodwill.
Oh, they do. And we all know that for the most part in America, we have a glut of things at the Goodwill and even brands. I know, and this is several years back when I went to Ireland and I was communicating with one of the bed and breakfast owners. And I just asked, is there something I can bring you from the States, kind of as a thank you? And she's like, oh, my sons love, and it was a particular brand of something, clothing. I can't remember, what it was now, but say it was Levi's. And she's like, oh, my sons have a terrible time trying to get this brand, if you wouldn't mind bringing a couple shirts. So sure, I got her the sizes, brought the shirts, and she didn't even charge me then for staying. She was so happy to have the clothes for her boys. So,
Yep. Yep. The other thing is, we talk about markets, go to flea markets.
oh,
Flea markets are so much fun. I mean, people go to Paris just to go to the flea market in Paris because it's, I think it's one of the biggest ones on the planet. There's another, London, it's not exactly a flea market, but if you go to Notting Hill on a Saturday, they have the Saturday market, which is all
oh.
old stuff. There's another one down the East End of London, but they're all over the place. And flea markets are really fun to shop at.
I was gonna say that's got to be a lot of fun because kind of like in the United States, London, Paris, other fashion capitals, there's going to be brands or designers that we may not see, especially if it's vintage. You might find some
Absolutely.
really amazing things.
Yep. Yep. I forgot to mention one other market that is if you're in Bangkok and it's the weekend market and it's called the Chatuchak Weekend Market, Chatuchak. and it's got 15,000 stalls. You,
15,000?
yeah. And they built a metro line that goes right there, so it's easy to get to. You could easily get lost. They have everything from high-end fashion to onions and everything in between. And you want to see what the Thai people are like, go to that market on a Saturday and just wander around.
Oh, that's got to be
Um,
fabulous.
yeah, plus there's a million food stalls,
Oh,
and it's just so much fun to wander around. It is really That's another really, really great market.
have there ever been instances where you feel like language has been a barrier? Because I know for a lot of us, Bangkok especially, I'm not going to know the language.
Google Translate now makes it really easy.
Oh, good. Okay, that's
Yeah.
a great
And,
tip.
and if not, just, have a calculator and you just show each other the numbers. But, you know, people speak a little bit of English. English has become such the universal language. And I really didn't have any trouble. I mean, I only speak English. Well, I speak very bad Spanish, but um, but I basically only speak English, and it doesn't bother me to go anywhere. It's like you could always manage. In fact, when I was in Istanbul this spring, um, I ended up getting a ride with a taxi, and the taxi driver was trying to tell me something. I had no idea what he was trying to tell me. He pulled over, pulls out his phone, and uses Google Translate,
Love that.
right? Because God knows I don't speak any Turkish. And he was saying, "Would you like to have a driver for a day? I'd be happy to show you around." And he named a price, and it was really good. And I thought, that sounds good. I will do that. Well, we ended up having a really fun day. The guy was really fun. But he was telling me jokes in Turkish into Google Translate, and it would translate. Sometimes it translated and sometimes it didn't.
Oh, that's great. What an
And then I would tell
experience.
him jokes and maybe, and he would look at it and go, huh? And I'm, okay, I got to say it a little bit differently. Oh, and he would start laughing because it clearly hadn't translated it quite.
Right. Oh my goodness. What a
Yeah.
fabulous way to spend the day, like you said, exploring the markets, maybe a city, especially if you can have a local driver or guide go with you and take you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. I'm surprised, there are food tours everywhere. I'm surprised there aren't shopping tours everywhere.
I am too, especially, as always being interested in fashion, like for Paris, for London, even for like New York City. I mean, for people coming from outside the country, or, if you've never visited New York, you may really want to spend your time in that part of the city.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole city.
Right.
Um, but absolutely, it's a surprising thing because so many people, that's one of the things that's fun,
Yeah,
and you want
exactly.
souvenirs and, yeah, you'll bring home some t-shirts, but that's not, that's what a tourist will bring home. What a traveler will bring home is something that really reminds them of the place as opposed to a t-shirt.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
Well, now that we've thrown it out there, maybe someone will start some shopping tours because
No,
it's a
really.
great niche that someone should take an interest in, because if they really know the city or know those markets, they would know some of the back history or the families or designers that have been, that's all the interesting stuff that we want to
Right.
know. Just like you mentioned how, I think, was it in Fez or Istanbul, about the leather and the way they treat it. I mean, that's a whole industry that some of us have never seen, how leather is tanned or turned into clothing or shoes or
Yeah, and if you go to Fez, you almost can't miss it. But absolutely, there's so many different things, and if you have your mind set on, I really like to get, hand woven fabric, or I'd really like to
yeah.
get, I'm in Thailand, I'd really like to get batik because that's something they do extraordinarily well. Um, I don't even know if you know where to begin.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean, you can research it, but if somebody has inside information, that you can't just get off the internet, that would be a whole lot better.
Yeah, it would be. And a lot of people do. They want something that's more in depth now. A lot of people want more from their travels than just the surface level. Or, oh, go to that mall down the street. No, they want to really go to where the artisans are, know the back history, just even like the Native American craftsmanship and
Oh
artisan.
yeah, absolutely.
Because there's different tribes, there's different ways that they do the pottery, even, and have been doing it for centuries.
Yeah, no question about it. As I said, when I was in Albuquerque, just a few weeks ago, um, it was amazing to see what was in this craft fair. Hand woven carpets that were just exquisite.
Wow.
That's my dog. Had to come say hello.
Yes, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, yes, it's okay. Yeah,
So, are there particular seasons for some of the areas? I know you mentioned Fez and you mentioned Bangkok, or is it pretty much any time of year is a good
anytime,
time?
any time of year, really. I mean, obviously the Christmas markets, you'd have to go Christmas time. The one thing that we haven't talked about, and that really is a fun shopping experience, is having custom made clothes made.
No, we haven't talked about that. And
Yeah.
that has got to be,
And there are so many places around the world where you can have, for a fraction of what something off the rack would cost, get clothing made. I've had clothing made in Bali. I've had clothing made in Bangkok. I've had clothing made in India. My brother had shoes made in Ghana.
oh my
Uh,
goodness.
yeah, and he described it to me, and he was saying that um, they take your foot, they, do a little drawing of it. You come back the next day, and for $10, he had a gorgeous pair of perfectly fitting shoes.
Wow.
You pick from the samples they have, I like that design. And sure enough, there it was for $10. He had custom made perfect shoes.
Wow.
And because I knew about, particularly in Bali, because I'd been there a couple of times, I knew that if you brought something, they could copy it. So I would bring clothes that I really loved that were getting a little old, or something that I really liked and I would love to have in a different fabric.
Yes.
And they made it up for me, and it takes them like a day.
That's
And you pick out the
nothing.
fabric. Yeah, you
Wow.
pick out the fabric. And I had a jacket made and I picked out the buttons. They gave me, here's buttons, pick which ones you want. And you pick out the fabric. And it was very little money and it was exact. I knew it was going to fit because it was exactly what I'd been wearing. And it was exact and I still wear it. And that was probably 10, 12 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the quality of some of those handmade items far surpasses
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of the things that we can buy off the rack today.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially in Bangkok, they're known for silk. Thai silk is some of the best silk on the planet. And I had cotton tops that I really like made out of silk for me, which are very dressy. And
Yes.
I wear them all the time, if I go
Oh,
out to the theater or whatever, because they're just beautiful and they've
that's
lasted a long
wonderful.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I hope you're going to include some of those tips in the chapter on
Oh
shopping.
yeah. Oh yeah. They're
Because
there.
again, I don't know that unless you do a deep dive, deep Google search or something, some of these things, if it's your first visit to Bali, you may not know that. But if you know ahead of time, wow, so many of us would love to, like you said, get a dress design or a blouse and
Yep. And they're happy to do it. I think you can also do it in Morocco, but I didn't do it there. But I think you can. But you can do it in a lot of places. In India, you're more likely to get Indian. They won't typically do Western style clothes, but you can
okay.
get Indian style clothes. And so I had a shirt made there. So they call it a kurta, which is actually what men wear, but I
Okay.
like them, so they
Yeah.
made. So what? here nobody knows the difference
I was
anymore.
gonna say no one knows the difference. It's a beautiful blouse. It's a shirt.
Exactly. Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, and fabric is gorgeous, and they did embroidery on it, and it's a really beautiful, beautiful thing. So, the other thing is when you go shopping, think about the things that other people will want or like. I am not musical. I'll just tell you that flat out. I love listening to music, but I'm not musical. But I have relatives who are.
Yes.
And so I've bought them CDs of local musicians that I've heard. I've bought on occasion, I've bought a drum set, you know, um, in Morocco actually, that I still don't know how I got home, but I did. And I have a nephew who was thrilled to pieces with it because he had never seen anything like it. But he likes music and likes drumming, so he got a set of Moroccan drums.
That's a
And
great tip because you're right. Even things like music and instruments, I mean, it's different around the world. And, again, it's a unique, personalized gift that you're not going to get just off the computer,
right, exactly. But that's exactly right. And then, of course, there's always, all the consumables. We talked about food before, bringing spices back, bringing, all kinds of food back. That's a great souvenir. And some of it, um, when I went to Iceland, I discovered that they absolutely love licorice.
Oh,
And and also in Finland, I think a lot of the Nordic countries, they're
interesting.
mad for licorice, but
Hmm.
not, we think licorice,
Right.
black licorice. It comes in strings, it comes in little,
Yeah.
eh, there's walls of this stuff in
Whoa.
different shapes, and some are saltier than others, and some of them are a little sweeter than others, and some of them are citrusy. And I, in both of those countries, everybody speaks a lot of English. And I remember walking into a store in Finland that the only thing they sold was licorice.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And it was like a candy store, but just for licorice. And the guy was and I don't happen to like licorice, but I wanted to buy it as gifts.
Yeah.
So I got a half an hour explanation of all the different types and why they were different and who liked what. And then he made up an assortment for me
Oh, did
in a
he?
really
Oh,
nice little
yeah.
box to bring
Oh,
back.
wow.
Yeah.
Super. See, I would never have even known that, super
I did.
unique like that.
Yeah, I had no idea, not a clue. And then I walked into the store.
Yeah. And those are the best finds. It's like when you discover something unique like that and you can bring something back that's truly
Oh yeah.
one of a kind.
Yeah, and it's not anything that anybody, it's like, where did you get this?
Yeah,
This is so,
exactly.
and so there's a whole story that goes with it. It just makes it more fun. I mean, a t-shirt is a t-shirt, but a box of 20 different kinds of licorice, now that's a gift.
Now, I was gonna say now that's a gift. And even if you don't maybe think you like licorice, you're gonna want to try it. It's something completely unique and hear the
Well, he
stories.
gave me some that, that I liked better than others. And then things like soaps.
Oh
If you go to Greece, you get olive soap.
yeah. Oh,
They do a million, they grow more olives there than just about anywhere, and they make olive soap.
oh, that's gotta be
And it's
wonderful.
and it's very, very soft. It's lovely, but that kind of stuff, different countries have different kinds of local soaps and cosmetics and, that kind of stuff. And even in this country, you can do that. There are lavender farms all over the place.
Yes.
And traveling, go to a lavender farm and see what they've got, or go to a farmer's market because a lot of times they're selling local products that you can actually, take back with you. I was in a market in Wisconsin, and in fact, after we went to the conference and
Yes.
we went up north, and they had something that I'd never seen before. They had dried fruit and dried vegetables of every conceivable variety, and it was all grown locally.
Oh my
You
goodness.
could get,
Yeah.
yeah, so you could get, local berries that I'd never, like cloudberries that I'd never even heard of, dried, and they were terrific.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
farmers markets are a great tip, even in, like you said, in the United States. I know when I go to Alaska, that's the first, I'm always looking like who's got a farmers market today? Because again, like you said, the local artisans are there. Maybe they, there's people that dye their own yarns and weave things and make hats and all kinds of unique things. It's a great way to discover new things and pick up some great gifts.
yeah, no, and it's fun again because you get to talk to people, and it's not just tourists there.
Right.
I mean, going to where the tourists shop, who cares?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's much more fun to go shop where the locals shop.
Yes, exactly. And you're going to get locally made items, whereas a lot of the tourist shops, you do really have to look. I've been in, like I said, Alaska, and you go in and you pick up some of the items that look like they should be made stateside, and they're not. It's kind of disappointing. So you really have to double check at times what you're buying and where it's made if you're looking for something that you want to be made local.
Yeah, yeah, you do because it's very easy to buy something and suddenly discover, oh, it was made in China. Funny thing about that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's going to happen all over the world. It's not just here, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is everywhere, even in countries that you wouldn't expect it to be.
Right. So you have to be a little bit mindful of those kinds of things. And the other thing is, don't buy the first thing you see. Because if you've just gotten into a country, you know, I will admit once or twice I wished that I had bought it because I never saw it again. But that's usually not the case. And you'll find you like something better, or it costs less, or you really like the person, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'll almost always have another chance to get something similar. So
Right.
I, I would not, just don't buy the first thing. And then the other thing that, just as a shopping tip is in some countries, they only want cash. And in some countries, they won't take cash.
This has become an interesting, yeah, to do your homework a little bit, do a little research on that. In some countries, you're right, they definitely want your cash. And in some countries, like what was interesting to me that my Egyptian guide told us ahead of time is Egypt, they wanted American dollars. Bring a stack of just American ones, and they wanted that money because
Yeah,
the dollar had been fluctuating so much, and they'll hang on to that.
yeah. I've had that happen in numerous countries where they really want American dollars. And in some countries, I was in South Korea. We went to when we arrived, I was with a friend. We exchanged money, got local money. I went home with exactly the same amount of money. No one would take it.
No one would take it.
No, we went into a coffee shop just to get a cup of coffee, and I handed the woman a bill, and she looked at it, and she looked at me, and she looked at the bill. She called her manager over, and of course we couldn't communicate at all. And the manager's going and points to the credit card machine,
Oh,
but they had no idea how to use cash.
oh,
I
that's
mean, it was like
interesting.
never ever. And then we started seeing everybody was using actually their phones and using, the credit cards stored on their phones. So
Good to know.
you literally could not use bills anywhere in South Korea.
Wow. Yeah, and I would have been like you, like I would have changed some money once I landed to have the local currency and not knowing. So it is good to research ahead of time.
Right. Yeah, it was a big surprise, I must say. And this was, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago.
Really? Oh my
Oh
goodness.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah. And
wow.
and now there's more and more places like that. In London, they basically don't want you to give them money. I was there last December and I had bills from my previous trip and I spent almost none of it because they wanted credit cards.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if it's because of theft or quite why.
Yeah, I haven't quite understood the switch either, why that is. And I do know, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have that option to pay in the local currency or American currency, and there's now I don't remember which way you should probably do it for the
I don't remember either.
yeah. So it's a good question to maybe call and find out with your bank or go
Yeah,
online. I want to say Peter Greenberg went over it. He's one of the travel journalists I follow. But again, because if you do it one way or the other, that exchange fee or rate, there
right,
might be something they tack on in addition to
right.
whatever the currency exchange is.
Yeah. And that's the other very important thing is make sure that you have a credit card that does not charge a fee,
Yes,
an exchange fee. And
right,
there's a lot of credit cards now that don't.
right, exactly. There's so many that don't, right,
Yeah. I mean, there's still some that do. So just, double check.
right. And double check with your credit card too that they don't want to know that you're traveling. Some of the credit cards when I've called recently, they're like, "Oh, don't worry, you didn't need to notify us." But for your own peace of mind, you may want to notify them so that you don't show up and they all of a sudden flag it and shut it down, and now you're standing there not able to pay for your
Right.
lunch or whatnot.
Which is the other thing is always bring a couple of different credit cards. Never just rely on one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great
Keep
tip too.
one in your safe in your hotel, carry just one with you, but bring an extra one just in case, because you just never know.
Right, exactly.
Um, and again, just have a good time because it's so much fun to do it. It's just so much fun. And again, I mean, my house is filled with things. I've been traveling since I'm 17 years old, long time ago. And my house is filled with things that I've bought over, around the US, Canada, and around the world. And every one I can tell you that there's a story behind it. And I can tell you the story.
See, that's what makes it more memorable too. That item now carries more than just the memory. It carries the whole story of
Yeah,
who you met, where you were, just a little time
absolutely.
capsule.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And it's fun. You look around and go, oh yeah, I remember that. I got that. You know. And there is always a story attached.
And speaking of stories, one more thing. This has been fabulous as always, Karen. Where can people pick up your books? You've got two out right now.
I do. One is called Wanderlust, and the other one is called Travel Mania. Travel Mania was the first, Wanderlust was second. They are on Amazon, they're on Barnes and Noble, they're on, you can ask at your local bookstore. Many libraries have it. They're around wherever you can buy a book. You should be able to buy mine.
Fabulous.
Yep. And the
And
third one, hopefully, will be out. And it's a little bit different because this one, the first two are travel stories. This one um, is I'm writing it for people who are seniors, people who have stopped traveling. A lot of people stopped after COVID because they were
oh,
worried about it. For people who have disabilities, mobility issues, as you well know, April, I have a very bad back.
yes.
I know from mobility issues. And so it's a one of the people in my writing group described it as it's a how-to book, but even more importantly, it's a why-to book. And it's trying to remind people how much fun travel is.
And I
So
think that's important. The travel is fun and there are ways to always do it. I'm always admire people that just keep doing it and going out there and the love of discovery even if you're not going to go far or overseas, there's still so much to discover right here in the United States. And every time I meet you, you have a new little town or hidden gem, which we're going to have to save that for another episode.
yeah, well, I told you, I mean, I could write the next book because I'm already doing presentations on it about quirky American towns. And I've got long lists of them. And I love traveling in the US. I mean, as much as I love traveling overseas, I love traveling in the US
I
because
do
they're
too.
around every corner, there's something interesting.
Well,
So
that's, I think, where we'll wrap it up. And I hope everyone will come back and we're going to have another chat and hear a little taste about these quirky towns because I think there is a desire, just to go somewhere close, sometimes budget, whatever your restraints or conditions are, knowing that there's places right here in the United States that are just fabulous.
absolutely. And there's tons of them, tons and tons and tons of them.
So thank you again, Karen. And if people want to reach out to you, do you have a website or?
I do. KarenGershowitz.com. Real simple. And you can also email me at GershowitzKaren@gmail.com.
Great. Thank you, everyone, so much, and hope to see you out there on the road while we're traveling. Thank you.
Thanks, April.